In this lesson, we're going to take a look at interval notation, which is just a simple way to write sets of numbers. Interval notation is used to describe solutions to things like inequalities, domain and range, increasing and decreasing intervals, and any situation where a set of numbers is needed to describe a math solution. It's generally shorter and simpler to write than set notations. It uses opening and closing parentheses or brackets along with a number or a symbol to represent the beginning number in the set, separated by a comma from the last number in the set. Now we'll take a look at an example of how to use interval notation. Let's say that I wanted to describe the set of numbers between 3 and 20, where all the real numbers were included. Then to write it in interval notation, I would simply have to do a parentheses, tell it to start the set at 3, comma, and then end the set at 20. And again, I would close with parentheses. And that means all the numbers between 3 and 20. Now, if I wanted to include the number 3, I would use a bracket like this. And then on the other end, if I want to include the number 20, I would use another bracket like that. That says all the numbers between 3 and 20, including 3 and 20. So numbers like 5 and 7, even fractions like 4.5 or 7.5 would all be included. In fact, every real number from 3 to 20, including 3 and 20, would be included in this case. I could even do something like this. If I put a bracket here and put 3, that means I'm including 3 all the way to 20, but then I could put a parenthesis here, which means do not include the number 20. So 3 would be included, 20 would not, along with all the numbers in between those two numbers. So here we have a number line describing the interval of numbers from -2 to +10. Notice that there's an open circle at -2 indicating -2 is not included, but 10 has a closed circle indicating 10 is included. So we're going to write this now in interval notation. Since -2 is not included, I'm going to start by putting a parenthesis at the beginning. And then I'm going to write the number -2 to indicate the beginning or the left end of the number line or smaller number, a comma, and then the end of the interval, which is 10. But this time, because 10 is included, on this end I'm going to put a bracket to indicate that we include the number 10, but not the number -2. This indicates in interval notation the interval from -2 to +10, including 10, but not -2. This would be the same thing as writing -2 is less than x less than or equal to 10, but in a much shorter notation. Let's take a look at how we would indicate intervals in interval notation on a graph. Let's say that I wanted to know the x values for which y is greater than 2. So notice here on the graph that anything starting at about -3 on x and going all the way up where x is 0, where it reaches 4 for a value of y, and then all the way over to where x is 3, where it comes back down to a value of 2, that interval is the place where y is greater than 2. So let's write that in interval notation. I'll write a parenthesis to indicate the starting point of the interval, which is -3, comma, and then the ending point of the interval, which is +3, and a closing parenthesis. That indicates the interval from -3 to 3, but not including -3 or 3. Now let's look at y is greater than or equal to 2. Same thing, except I use a bracket. -3, and then to +3, and then again I'm going to close with a bracket to indicate that I am including the number -3 and the number +3 in the interval. If I want to know y is less than 2, it's a little trickier. First of all, I notice that over here on the left, y is less than 2 starting at negative 3 and going all the way down to negative infinity. So I'm going to write it like this. Put a parentheses, and I'm going to write a negative infinity sign. A little bit hard to write, comma, and then I'm going to write negative 3 to indicate that's where it stops. But notice here I'm not finished, because also we go from positive 3 all the way to positive infinity where y is less than 2. So I need to write that from 3 to positive infinity. Use a parentheses. In fact, I always use a parentheses on an infinity or a negative infinity because we never reach infinity. And I'm going to put a union sign right here to indicate that those two sets of numbers, those two intervals, are union together. Both are a part of the solution. Okay, now let's take a look at this one. What if I want to know less than or equal to 2? Well, I still start by putting a parentheses because we don't reach negative infinity. But this time I'm going to put a comma, negative 3, and I'm going to close with a bracket to indicate that negative 3 is now included, because at negative 3 it's equal to 2, union with positive 3, where it's equal to 2, where y is equal to 2, all the way to positive infinity. Again, closing with a parentheses to indicate that we don't ever get to infinity. Infinities and negative infinities never have a bracket, always a parentheses. What if I want to look at this thing and come up with something like all the places where y is less than or equal to 4, or all the x values? Well, notice on this graph, that's every x value. So I'm actually going all the way from negative infinity, so I put a parentheses, all the way to positive infinity on the other end, actually indicating all real numbers, closing with a parentheses here. So negative infinity to positive infinity represents all real numbers. So in summary, keep this in mind. Interval notation is a shorter way to describe sets of numbers and intervals. They use opening brackets to include the first number. They use an opening parentheses if it's not included. Same thing at the end. Opening closing brackets if the number is included, closing parentheses if it's not. The smallest number is always first in an interval, and the first number is the start of the set, and the last number is the end of the set. First number can also be a negative infinity sign. The last number can be a positive infinity sign. But if it is infinity, it will always be a parentheses, never a bracket, because we never reach either negative or positive infinity. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. I'd appreciate it if you would leave me a comment below to let me know if you like using interval notation better than set notation. If you found this video useful, click the subscribe button to support the channel and help us make more videos. I also invite you to visit our website at mymatheducation.com for more information and problem-solving steps, as well as social media links. You'll find the link, along with other links of interest, in the description below. Thank you again for your support, and thanks for watching this video.